Coming up on today's Louisville Real Estate Show, you won't believe what's dripping from the ceiling. It's a condo catastrophe. When your upstairs neighbor floods your place, who really pays? Also, buried in the paperwork, one local homeowner says, "Why is my mortgage company torturing me? Is it sabotage or just standard procedure?" The shocking truth behind endless loan demands. And cursed clocks and haunted paintings. We've got the creepy things superstitious homeowners refuse to keep in their house just in time for Halloween. Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Sokoler, owner of the Sokoler team at Remax Properties East. Thank you for joining us. We've got an interesting show ahead for you, and hopefully you can stick with us throughout this Sunday morning and also staying with us throughout the show. We've got Eddie Sexton, who is actually Randy Rocky's partner over at Swan Financial, and you can reach Eddie because they shop the loans to get you the very best rate, and Eddie's a great guy. I've known him for a number of years. You can reach him 502-645-0102. Also here, an old friend of our show who's here on a regular basis, Lee Harris, legal counsel, Limestone Title and Escrow. And Lee does a great job along with her team for not only getting a loan closed, but title searches, examinations, escrow services, issues with title insurance for buyers and lenders and the like. It goes on and on. You can reach Lee and the folks over at Limestone at 649-7964. And I'm Bob Sokoler. I own the Sokoler team at Remax Properties East. And I've got a team of 10 buyer agents, but typically for most, I'm the seller guy. I'm the guy, if you're going to sell your home, you reach out to me, I'll come out free, no obligation to talk about what the process is. We can do it by phone or by Zoom or in person, and we can talk. No home too big, no home too small. I work in Louisville, surrounding counties, and even, of course, southern Indiana. You can reach me on my cell phone anytime, 502-376-5483. That's 502-376-5483, or go to bobsellslouisville.com, fill out the information, and hit submit. And for a free, no-obligation estimate of what your home is worth, go to wesellouisville.com and then click on the top of the page, fill out the information, send it in, and my AI, our artificial intelligence, get you an estimate. It's a starting place for you to learn how much your home is worth, and we can go from there if you want. All right, let us start off with Eddie, since you're the new guy on the block here for today, as Randy is enjoying a couple of days off. So, Eddie, Doris writes in, she says, "I'm buying a new home, and the mortgage company keeps asking me for more and more documents to get the clear to close," which is the okay that you're going to close and buy the house. She's wondering, why isn't there a list of documents needed so she can furnish everything needed at one time? Why do they keep coming back for more information? Eddie, good question.
That is a good question, and there should be an extensive list of documents given up front. But what occurs a lot of times during the process is that some of those documents will have the underwriter reach out and want clarification documents. So, for example, let's say that you have a bank statement that shows a payment coming out that wasn't listed on the application. So they want to know if there's an additional payment that needs to be included in the debt ratio that they didn't see. So they want to get clarification on that. And sometimes documents expire. Everything needs to be within 30 days of closing. So if you have a pay stub that was older, that was maybe given during the pre-approval process, maybe the underwriter wants a more updated pay stub before closing, or an updated bank statement that would hit that 30-day aging category.
And if I'm not mistaken, things tightened down after the debacles of 2008, 9, 10, 11, and 12, where there wasn't all this check and balance. And so now the underwriters are being a lot more thorough or more specific. Is that what it's all about?
Absolutely. Regulations were put in place to make sure that individuals buying homes supplied their needed documentation to prove that they could afford the home. So all that is very strictly monitored, and that's why the updated documents are needed.
Yeah, we all remember, well, many of us remember, including Lee, the no doc loans that were given out, and who knew who was buying at one point. That's how loose it got. But
we used to. Yeah, we used to call those the fog the mirror loan. If you could fog a mirror back then, you could probably get a mortgage. And that was part of the problem, or maybe the entire problem, of what happened to the industry starting in 2008.
When if you folks want to hear and see a copy of the show, whenever that is, you can go to LouisvilleAnswers.com. LouisvilleAnswers.com. It's a redirect to our YouTube channel, where this show will reside with all the other shows. We've done lots of shows And there's a lot of information there. LouisvilleAnswers.com. And if you'd like to see what sellers are saying about us, I have a new camera I just bought. I love technology, and many of you may know that. And on a diving expedition with my wife, LaDonna, back in July, I had my GoPro, but I had borrowed a little housing for the GoPro to go underwater with because I couldn't find the one I owned. And then it leaked and it burned up my GoPro.
Oh,
So I just bought a new Insta360 5X, which looks phenomenal. Now I've got a lot of closings coming up in the next couple of weeks, so I'll be adding to this. So if you want, just check it out, LouisvilleSellersTalk.com. But you can go there now and see what I've already posted, but there's some other ones coming. LouisvilleSellersTalk.com. I'm excited about this new, I love technology in addition to real estate.
yes.
All right, Lee Harris.
Yes.
Arnold sent over at Limestone. Arnold sent us an email about his condo in Jefferson County. Apparently, the condo, Arnold's condo, is on the first floor, and water from a second floor unit leaked into his unit and damaged the wood floor. So apparently, the neighbor's AC unit froze, or the line froze running under the floor, caused water to come into his unit, and he's wondering now, what happens? Does his insurance company pay for it? Does the neighbors pay for it? Does the condo association pay for it? What are your thoughts, Lee?
That's a great question because, of course, this happens quite often because you're sharing walls and you're sharing ceilings and floors. So, typically speaking, it will be the condo owner above whose actual device broke or whatever who caused the damage. Their insurance company or that owner themselves should pay for that damage. However, sometimes insurance companies might fight. That means that the downstairs owner might have to get his insurance company to pay it and then subrogate against the other one. If it's something in the middle, in between, which is actually the condo association's pipes, they are supposed to pay for it. So a condo owner owns from the drywall in, and the condo association owns that gap in the middle. So sometimes there's even a dispute about, was it a condo association's pipe or was it the neighbor's pipe? And so that adds a third layer of insurance in there because they have a master insurance plan that should cover anything that they're liable for. So it will get fixed, fortunately, but it might take a couple of tries to find out who is actually going to pay it.
And we should point out, and we have a question coming up next week on this, on the next week's show, with regards to condo associations, that there are some copper pipes that are in the walls of a lot of condo units that are starting to have pinhole leaks.
Oh, yes.
And it's creating problems. And so we'll get to that, an answer from Brett Lawler over at Home Team, if there's anything you can do as a condo owner to protect yourself. But just know that that is a problem, and we'll follow up on that and continue to monitor those types of problems for our audience. Back over to Eddie Sexton over at Swan Financial. Tim writes us, he says, my wife and I have been house hunting for a while, and he says, it stinks. We make a little over $100,000 a year, currently renting a smaller single-family home with 2 kids and a dog. He says they can't find anything that they like, and he's wondering, is he crazy to think that there will be a wave of foreclosures coming on the market in the near future? So, Eddie, that's a really good question. Are you hearing any rumblings about foreclosures?
I'm not, and I don't expect that to happen. I think people reference back to what we were talking about earlier and what happened in 2008. There's a totally different situation. There were a lot of mortgages where people simply couldn't afford the home. And again, because of regulations, we're not in that same situation again. So based on the fact that we're also short of housing, we're still millions of houses short of what's needed in this country to house everybody. So I don't have a crystal ball, but I don't expect a wave of foreclosures like people were thinking of when they look back towards that 2008 to 2012 period.
And I think banks learned a very valuable lesson about kicking people out, foreclosing on homes, and then having to maintain those homes just to keep them viable, to be able to fix them up a little bit and resell, because they sat out there, weather hitting them, doing destruction, costing the banks more money to get them back in shape, right? I mean, I don't think we're going to see anything near that ever again.
I don't think so. I don't think so either, Bob.
Yeah.
I think if someone's going to look at buying a home, they need to figure out what their budget is for a monthly payment, and then shop for the best interest rate in order to get the most home for that payment. And that's how they're going to
find the next home. Yeah,
that's exactly. That's how they're going to get into the right home that fit their needs.
Get pre-approved, work with an agent. I'd love to help you. I'm sure Eddie and the folks at Swan would love to help you to get on the pre-approval path and then get going. Back over to Lee Harris, Swan Financial. Stephen wrote us an email about a house he just bought, Lee. He was talking with his neighbor, explained he wanted to build a pool in his backyard, and his new neighbor asked, where would the pump be located? I think we know where this is going, right? Stephen says, I'm not sure, but he pointed to an area near the edge of his property, I guess, and close to the edge of the neighbor's property, at which point Stephen says the neighbor said, I just don't want a pool in the area or the noise that comes with it. So Stephen's wondering, can the neighbor stop the pool from being built? Lee?
Well, that's a great question. So if he lives in a neighborhood that has an HOA, a homeowners association, they all have bylaws and master deeds, and they say what can be there and what can't. So that's your first step, Stephen, is to find out if you have an HOA and also get a copy of those documents. It might say you can have a pool that's in ground, but you can't have an above ground pool, or it might say you can't have any pool at all, or it might say nothing about restricting pools. And so that's really where the crux of the matter is going to lie, because your neighbor, if you have the right to put a pool into your property and it's not going to encroach on your neighbor's property, then your neighbor really doesn't have a right to tell you what to do with your own land. And even if it's going to be a little noisier, that's just something that happens when you have neighbors. Sometimes they have a dog, or sometimes they have a chicken coop or something, or a pool that causes more noise than they were used to. But I think that's where to start. Ask your HOA president or your secretary for a copy of those documents. If you need help, you can feel free to call me on that number that Bob gave you, and I'll help you go through them as well.
We're going to give that out in a moment. Again, and one other thing, for those of you who are shopping for a home with a pool in mind, it might be worth it to go ahead of schedule. Go to your neighbor, a potential neighbor, where you're going to be buying a home, and say, hey, listen, I may be your new neighbor, and I'm wondering, would you object to me putting a pool in if I end up moving here? So at least you got that out there, and you can read the tea leaves, so to speak, whether you're going to have a problem in the future. A reminder, if you'd like to see what both buyers and sellers are saying about us, we made it very easy. We have reviews we're very proud of. You can go to LouisvilleZillow.com or LouisvilleGoogle.com. Well, just in time for Halloween, just a couple of weeks away, we've got some of the superstitions from some people, what they don't want in their house. It's kind of interesting. That's going to be up when we come back. And staying through the break until the top of the hour, Lee Harris, legal counsel, Limestone Title and Escrow. They do a great job of real estate closings and a variety of other things, including residential and commercial real estate transactions. You can reach Lee at 649-7964. By the way, that's her direct cell phone number. 649-7964. Also with us in for Randy Rocky, who's got the day off from Swan Financial, Eddie Sexton, who's a great guy. I've known him for a long time. You can reach Eddie directly on his phone number at 645-0102. And if you're thinking of selling your home now or in the future, I'd love to help you. Free, no obligation analysis. We can talk. Call me. I'll come out. It's me. And no home too big, no home too small. You can reach me on my cell phone, 376-5483. That's 376-LIVE. Or go to bobsellslouisville.com and fill out the form and hit submit. We're back in a moment on News Radio 840 WHAS. Bob Sokoler, Louisville Real Estate Show, here with you till the top of the hour. Thank you for staying with us, folks. Continuing with us, Eddie Sexton, who is over at Swan Financial and works alongside with Randy Rocky. You can reach Eddie where at Swan. They shop the loan to get you the best rate. 645-0102 is Eddie's number. Also staying with us, Lee Harris, legal counsel, Limestone Title and Escrow. You can reach Lee and her folks to get your loan closed, because they do a great job, and you can pick the closing attorney that you want at 649-7964. And if you're thinking of selling your home now or in the future, I'd love to help you. I work in Louisville, surrounding counties, and southern Indiana. It's me. Come out, free, no obligation analysis. We'll talk about the process. You can reach me at 376-5483 or 376-LIVE, or go to bobsellslouisville.com and fill out the form. All right. So there are some people, as we get close to Halloween, who believe there's a lot of bad luck by introducing something that might be questionable into your house. So what are those things? I'm going to go through these, and feel free, Eddie and Lee, to just jump in and comment on these, but I'll go through these as fast as I can because there's a couple of them that you might be very interested in. So some people don't want broken clocks because clocks mark the passage of time. They have long been associated with human mortality. In the Victorian era, clocks were stopped when a person in the household died. So it's not surprising that a clock has abruptly stopped. Working bodes bad luck. Fireflies. You may think it's cute when your kids come home with a jar of fireflies, but beware. According to Victorian superstitions, when a firefly or lightning bug gets into your home, it means someone in the household will die soon. How about,
Jeez.
no kidding. How about a lifeless...
We had jars of those things as kids.
No, no good. Lifeless decor, whether it's a vase or shriveled cut flowers, a taxidermied moose head, or even a seashell. Dead things in some homes can bring bad luck. A lot of people don't want those in there. Green paint in the 19th century, because certain green paints could literally kill you. The pigment in there was used in textiles, children's toys, paint, and wallpaper, and it contained arsenic. Hence, it really could be, not these days, but back then. An axe is something they don't want. A lot of people, sources state that it's bad luck to carry an axe over the shoulder through the house. Others say simply it brings one into the house as bad luck and a signal of death. An old broom. If you move into a new house, don't bring along the old broom that you used in your old digs. It's common superstition worldwide that any old broom may sweep away good luck. So think about that. All right, we'll get a couple more in here and we'll move on. A garden hoe. Carrying a hoe into the house can bring death or at least bad luck with it. If you do accidentally bring one indoors after finishing your gardening duties, it's best to walk backwards out the same door you entered and try to reverse the bad fortune.
Makes sense.
How about this? I'd never heard of this. Red and white flowers in a vase. Be sure to make your bouquets with lots of different blooms or go monochromatic, because Victorian superstition holds that red and white flowers together in a vase foretells death. Don't bring a bird in the house. Many cultures say a flying bird in through an open window will be considered bad luck. And finally, on this one, an open umbrella. And we've heard, many of us have heard this before, never open an umbrella. Superstitions involving umbrellas indoors. They have roots in Egyptian traditions, which says that bringing an umbrella indoors insults the protective powers of a home's guardian spirit. So those are just some of the list that we've got of superstitions that some people do abide by, especially as we head towards Halloween.
Yeah.
Over to Lee Harris, Limestone Title and Escrow. Andy says in this email that we received that his mother recently moved in with him from out of state. She's going through a divorce, and Andy's is the caretaker of his mom. He says she's not receiving Medicaid, but she might need it in the future. So she wants to protect her funds. He wants to protect her funds from being affected by Medicaid. His home's worth, he says, about $500,000. He owes $350,000. He wants to have his mother on the deed so that he could use some of her funds to pay down the mortgage. But he's wondering, would that create a problem with Medicaid if she applies in the future? And Eddie, feel free to jump in on this one as well, because it involves paying down a mortgage. But Lee, what's your first thought on this one?
My first thought is that currently there is a 5-year look back for Medicaid, which means that if you apply for that, they will look at what assets you've had in the last 5 years. So, and there's a limit in each state, how much cash you can have, how much actual assets you can have when you apply. It's very low, around $2,000. And so if you are trying to not have a barrier to her Medicaid application, it's probably best for her to be legitimately getting rid of assets versus getting a new home or whatever. That will definitely be counted against her if she's on title. Unless
he waits 5 years to apply for mom's Medicaid, correct? Is that what I'm hearing?
Right. In 5 years, yeah. In 5 years from now, yes.
But no one knows. I mean,
Right.
you really don't know whether she's going to be able to subside without Medicaid for 5 years. So it's a gamble. It really is. All right, we go over to Eddie Sexton, Swan Financial. So, Eddie, Charlotte wants to buy her first home. And in this email, she says she's contacted a real estate agent and starting to look. But she was told from the real estate agent she needed a pre-approval letter before the agent would take her out to see homes. And this is common, and I think it's important that we point out that getting pre-approved for the home that you can buy is the first step because you really don't know what you can afford, right, Eddie? That's the first step in this thing, correct?
Well, that's correct. And even if someone says, hey, I've got great credit and my income's fine, so I'm just going to go find a house and then get pre-approved, what you haven't done is work on, what's my budget for a house? You need to really figure out how much do I really feel comfortable with spending monthly on a home, counting taxes and insurance. And then a good mortgage person can help you identify based on that number and how much cash you want to put down. What your purchase price is. You might be looking at homes that really aren't congruent with what you want to pay monthly. So it's a good idea to get that done up front and make sure you're looking at the right priced homes to meet your needs.
Yeah, and that is a very important point, is what you feel comfortable with being able to spend for a mortgage. You might be able to afford a much bigger mortgage, but what do you feel comfortable of outlay every month? Because remember, you're going to have some expenses that come with a home and maintaining it. But Charlotte did want a follow-up here. She wanted to know, what does a pre-approval letter involve? What's needed for her to get a pre-approval letter? Eddie?
Typically, pre-approval letter will consist of an application where we've got all your personal information. We're able to pull your credit. And then we're going to want to see your income, whether if you're self-employed, it'd be full tax returns. If you're a W-2 employee, it'll be W-2s and pay stubs. And then the third component is what amount do you want to put into the transaction? What does your down payment look like? And where are those assets coming from? Are they coming from checking savings? Are you pulling money from a 401k? And, based on credit and income and assets, we can figure out, where you want to land as far as purchase price and mortgage approval.
A reminder, you can see a replay of the show, both see it and hear it, by going to LouisvilleAnswers.com. That's LouisvilleAnswers.com. That is a redirect from to our YouTube channel, which has a lot of information there. And also another reminder, if you're thinking of selling your home, we have a free no obligation booklet that has hundreds of useful tips. Send me an email, bob@WeSellLouisville.com. And then in the subject line, just put selling tips, and then I'll send that right back out to you. All right, we go back over to Lee Harris, Limestone Title and Escrow. Samantha and her brother inherited their mom's home when she passed away. Unfortunately, her brother Tony has a gambling problem, and somehow the house that they both inherited was used to pay off a gambling debt. So Samantha is not sure how to proceed. On one hand, she's worried that Tony could be physically abused if she doesn't allow this sale of the house to go through to, I guess, would we say loan sharks, maybe? But
Sounds like it.
yeah, but she definitely wants her half of the value of the home. She's wondering, so what does she do from here? I don't know. We can give you exact advice. Lee, what would you think? And Eddie, you have any suggestions as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, if the property is in the name of both of the heirs, then their debt's attached to that property. So when that property is sold, the debts will have to be paid. So if this is a lien or something like that, then in order to sell it, it's going to have to be paid. If there's enough left over for her to get a portion, then certainly she's entitled to that. But it could be that there's not any equity to give to her. So I'm sure the brother would owe it to her, but that would also depend on, what his financial wherewithal is.
Would any attorney be able to draw paperwork that would facilitate this type of sale and owing money from the brother to the sister?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. If there was an attorney that handled her mother's estate, for example, I would go to that person and have them draw up a contract between the two regarding the inherited funds.
Got it. All right. This is good information. Final question here for Eddie Sexton over at Swan Financial. Asher sent us an email saying he hasn't sold or bought a home in 20 years, and he's trying to understand what he should expect in monthly mortgage payments and specifically what's included in that payment. So again, this is one of those things where we know, I'll give you kind of the headline and Eddie, fill in the info. The first thing is principal payment. Explain that in a one-liner.
Principal payment is the amount that's going to pay of your payment that pays down the balance on the loan.
Next would be interest that's calculated with the payment.
That interest is the interest you're paying on the note for borrowing the money. And that is the largest portion in most mortgages of the payment.
We move on to escrows, and let's start with taxes that are calculated in the monthly payment.
Taxes are going to be your property taxes to the county. And then if you live in a small municipality like St. Matthews or something like that, they're going to have an additional property tax for that area as well.
And of course, we can't forget insurance that would be calculated if you're escrowing the money.
Right. Your hazard insurance is required for a mortgage that protects the asset that is the collateral for the loan. So hazard insurance or homeowners insurance is required.
And then if you put down less than 20%, we're now looking at PMI, private mortgage insurance. Would you explain that?
Correct. Mortgage insurance is what protects the lender in case of default. If there was a default and the home sold at foreclosure and there was not enough equity to cover that mortgage, then that mortgage insurance is what protects the lender on any shortfalls on the sale of the property at foreclosure.
Okay. So that gives you kind of a rundown on what needs to happen, what you'll be paying. And there are some other fees for originating the loan and the like. What I would tell you is, because we're out of time, is to simply contact Eddie and any loan officer, and they'll give you a rundown. They're more than happy to help work everything out for you. But that gives you a primer on the start of this. Our thanks to Eddie Saxton, who did a great job. You did a good job, Eddie. Really, nicely done. Nicely done.
Thank you.
First time.
Thank
Yep.
you. Thank you.
And you can reach Eddie directly if you're looking for a loan. Swan shops the loans to get you the very best rate. 645-0102 is Eddie's number. Also, our thanks to Lee Harris. Lee, as always, great job. You did it as well.
Thank you.
We thank you. And you can, Lee is, by the way, legal counsel over at Limestone Title and Escrow. They do a lot of closings and they do them well. You can reach Lee on her actual cell phone, 649-7964. And if you would like to sell your home, I'll give you my actual cell phone as well. You can call me anytime, day or night. My wife, LaDonna, she understands when I get a call. So that's a good thing. And you can reach me, no home too big, no home too small. And I work in Louisville, surrounding counties in southern Indiana. And then, of course, you can reach me at 502-376-5483. That's 376 Live. Or go to bobsellslouisville.com, fill out the form, click on the page, and submit. And then, by the way, for a free, no obligation estimate of what your home is worth, go to WeSellLouisville.com, click on the top of the page, and fill out that information. That's it. We're out of time. See you next Sunday on News Radio 840 WHAS.